podcast this morning, and I have a wonderful guest, and I'm just excited to have a conversation with Steve. And I just want to remind everyone that the Pirate Broadcast is here to introduce interesting people doing interesting things. And it's just an awesome opportunity to join in, bring in some comments, questions. I love the opportunity to actually respond. I get back to your comments. May not get back immediately in this broadcast. However, it does happen during the course of the day. So I love that you're here. If you're live, if you're on a replay, thank you so much. All the gratitude in the world for us being here and having the opportunity to share this information with you. So Steve, we've been connected for a while. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your time today.
Well, thank you, Russ, for having me on your program. And I'm excited because this is my first LinkedIn Live. So,
wow. So
you get that honor of pulling me into the first LinkedIn Live.
I've had the opportunity to bring a few people on that haven't been on live before. So that's a good thing. So that means that we are making progress. More people are getting on live. More people are sharing their story and their message and having the opportunity to share their gifts. And with you being on the show, we've had Zoom sessions before. We've had conversations before. And the beauty of what we're doing here is that we can actually have conversations with each other and share what we're doing. So I know that you've been doing a couple of things, and I admire the work that you're doing in your stories. You tell great stories. You're an awesome writer, and
thank you.
So and I know that we're both involved in Random Act. So I want to give a shout out to everybody in the Random Act community and everything else. Renee, Jill, all of the people in the Blue Angels. Hats off, and I applaud you. I love you all. So thank you so much. So what's happening in the world of Steve today? So what are you focused on today?
I'm focused on trying to either narrow down what I need to be focused on or just continuing to enjoy doing all the things I get to do. That's one of the benefits of being an entrepreneur, potentially as an older entrepreneur where, hey, I've got a wife who can actually pay the bills and now I can play, I tease her some. It's like the first 18 years of our marriage, she stayed at home. She was a stay-at-home mom. I got her to go back to school and get some skills that she could make a living on if anything happened to me, because a lot of people know about my health history.
Yeah.
And I wanted her to be able to provide for herself.
Right.
Well,
independence.
Now that the corporate world has kicked me out, I'm enjoying her taking care of me.
So we have a relatively parallel background. If people don't know, Steve, you were in IT in the healthcare industry for years. I was in healthcare. I was in also IT. I've been in IT and technology since '92. So we have that link and that thread.
I'm a little older than you.
I don't know.
I go back to the beginning of the IBM PC in the early 80s. So
I started out on the System 36, IBM System 36.
Oh, I did too. My programming was all on the 36. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have this parallel, and I love the fact that we are evolving and changing and defining who we are, because it's not easy. When you're kind of defined by your industry and the things you do and what you're attached to, it's challenging to kind of think, okay, step aside and redefine who you are as an individual and what value you bring to the table. But you're doing some amazing things. I see your posts, I see your activity, I see your connections, and you're doing some amazing things, Steve. So hats off. And the sooner you release the fact that the corporate world, I got ejected from the corporate world more than once. So it's like I climbed to the top of the ladder only to realize it's on the wrong building. And so we have to adjust and adapt. And so through this transition, what have you discovered about yourself that you didn't really realize before?
One of the things that I've done through this transition is to become a certified UMAP coach. So that's one of the things I am doing, is coaching various people. And one of the things that became evident to me as I drilled down on my own strength is I have the learner strength as one of my top 5. And people with the learner strength are usually quick learners, but they always want to learn something new. And so
it's a form of procrastination for me.
Okay, maybe, but the bottom line is my life probably mimics that, in the sense that as I've started out in one career and kind of gotten to the top, I've then reinvented myself to start over again and learn another course. And now being an entrepreneur, I think, is either number 5 or number 6 of me reinventing myself along the way, which again plays to my strength as a learner.
Yeah. So learning new skill sets and adopting those skill sets into your life is a simple process, because you're normally, that's your normal mode of operation. Is that what you're?
It is, but if you look at my transition from product manager in the early days at IBM PC to programmer to manager of applications to chief information security officer to data center manager, all of that was in IT. So that made the transitions pretty easy for me.
From one position in IT to another position in IT.
Yeah, so you're carrying some knowledge and deepening newer knowledge.
Right.
But now that I'm transitioning into being an entrepreneur, that is a whole different game to me.
Tell us more, because I want to see if we have shared similar. Yeah, I want to hear what that means, because being an entrepreneur, that means a lot of things to a lot of different people. And
you could call it self-employed. You can call it.
I've been a freelancer. I've been a contractor. I've been,
consultant.
And
all those are variations of working for yourself, basically.
Yeah. And there's a fine line, because I think for me, an entrepreneur is someone that creates expansion in an area. So for instance, like I have my core business that I do a lot of the creative work. I do create content and things like that. And I also have people that are working for me to do other work. I contract other people to do that.
Yes.
And that's, I think, an important component of being an entrepreneur versus a freelancer.
Okay.
So expansion is really good.
You can call me a freelancer. You can call me
but you're still defining who you are.
A beach bum,
I won't call you a beach bum unless we're at the beach.
I'm not at the beach,
around.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. I don't think you're near the beach, though.
I'm not. I'm in Illinois, in a very plain state.
Do you have cold weather yet?
Oh yeah, we've had snow. Just last week we got a couple inches of snow. So
you already have snow.
Yes, unlike you guys down in Arizona. Yes.
Although this is the time of year that I love Arizona. It's like when it's 120. Not so much.
The wintertime, exactly.
The wintertime.
That's why all the snowbirds flock there. Yes, my grandparents used to flock there and then come home.
Oh,
the summer.
It's awesome. It's awesome. The funny thing about it is the traffic increases in the wintertime here. It's like, okay.
And it's probably a lot of older people, and they may not drive very fast.
Well, yeah, it's like. So I just want to give a shout out while we're here. Lori, Brenda, Angie, Rachel, Lori, Life. Yes. Learners Unite, Lori, ask Steve how identifying their core skills or habit helps his clients. How does that help your clients? Like now that you know that you're a learner, great question, by the way, Sherry. I love that.
Yeah, that is
Jeffrey,
an excellent
Sophie.
question. So I would say part of knowing my uh, strengths, and learner is one of them. Connectedness is another.
Uh-huh.
Connectedness is like in the UMAP terminology, we call it our driver strength. So often people have one strength that really motivates them and drives them. They might have a couple that they interchange, and then the rest of your top 5 kind of support that in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, connectedness allows me to see the big picture and also break it down into the smaller pieces and potentially put those pieces back together in a way that brings about improvement.
So it's like connecting the dots.
It is. It's like connecting the dots. Now, being a learner helps me learn quickly and see some of those connections that other people may not see. And so from that standpoint, it helps me to service my clients if they're in need of ideas, if they want to, bounce things off of me from a business standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
I have a wealth of things in my background. I call my toolkit that I can bring out and help people with.
I love that, pulling from your toolkit. It's like, oh, that's information I haven't used in a while. This applies right now. It's always good to have that.
Well, and it's a set of skills that you have or knowledge that you've mastered, yes, that you can pull in.
So the learners, so how can others adopt their core skills or their core traits? How do they learn? How do they go? What's the process? Explain to me the process, because UMAP is a little bit, there's the book that is it Kristen Cherry, and I think I have Kristen scheduled to be on the show as well.
Good. Excellent.
And I know I'm super excited about that. And I have a couple of Lori's been on the show.
Yes.
There's a few people, and I haven't really dug in and to fully understand kind of a walkthrough on what the process is and what it looks like. So I think
all right, I'll be glad to give you a walkthrough.
Tell me the information. We need to know. Inquiring minds need to know.
Okay, good. Well, to me, the UMAP is a discovery process regarding yourself. We're looking at your strengths, your values, your motivated skills, and your career interest. Those 4 things combined together make you a unique individual with unique strengths. Once you understand how those play in your life, when you spend some time reflecting upon how they show up in your life, it's not necessarily that people don't know that they don't have a certain strength or something in there, and
they may have a sense that they have that strength.
Correct.
They don't know how to define it, or they don't know how they don't know how it impacts their life if they bring into their power.
Exactly. So that's what we help people do through that process, is to look at their strengths. And it's one of the things I love about coaching UMAP and my partners, I call my clients partners, they're the insights that they gain that change their life. I mean, truly change their life. And that could be in terms of work and what they're doing at work. If they find out that, they're not really using their strengths, they're not really using the skills that they want, so that's why they're dissatisfied with work, they can choose to take steps to move in direction where they are using their strengths or their skills and become more happy. But I've also seen it show up in people's lives. That to me is some of the more powerful side of this, is as you recognize why you do certain things, it helps you then in understanding how you're relating to others. And a good example of this is is one of my partners has the achiever strength.
Mm-hmm.
And achievers is a great strength. They're very goal oriented. They're very driven to get things done. They're very hardworking. But one of the downsides of having the achiever strength is, yeah, you can hear that in the background. Yeah. I don't know what's happening. The house is falling apart around me.
This is live, Steve. You can't run away.
No, we can't. But anyway, one of the downsides of achiever strength is you sometimes focus too much on task and work to the neglect of others.
Yeah.
And so as I was coaching my one partner and we were talking about that, they thought, yeah, this kind of sounds like me. And then between sessions, by the next session, he came back and he said, Steve, the light bulb went on this weekend. I was sitting down and I was working really hard on something that I knew I had to get done for work. And my 6-year-old daughter came up to me and I brushed her aside. And they said the light bulb went on. And so then he wisely went and had a conversation with his wife and said, do I do this often? And she said, yes, you do it all the time. And so he began to see himself differently in a way that caused him to reflect and say, hey, my family, my home is my top priority. And I want to be number one at home and not number one at work.
Yeah.
And
that's
lot of
a huge number one at home and not number one at work. Because sometimes you have to make a decision, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, because he's still going to have his achiever strength. So he'll still be hugely successful in things that he attempts to do. It's now that he has this awareness of what the strength does to him, through him. He can try and balance that with other things so he can have a better, fuller, rounder life.
Do you sense that occasionally because I notice this a lot in people in my coaching experience and background, that there are people at times, they have a sense of their own innate ability.
Yes.
However, they need permission to actually bring it out and say, this is something that you're inclined to be good at, or this is something you could do. Go do this. And I think just that switch in their head is really a powerful tool as a coach to say, you have the ability and the authority and the permission to go do this. And that changes lives immediately.
It does, because people sometimes feel like they're the oddball. Like take somebody like me with the learner strength who does one career, then moves to another career, keeps moving from career to career. Those people sometimes find themselves saying, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just settle down and have one career and work at it for 40 years? Well, they're not wired that way. They're wired through their learning strength to keep mastering new things.
Yeah.
And as soon as they realize that, it becomes freeing to them, like, wow, that's why I do what I do. Yeah. And it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing.
No, we're all unique individuals. And I think that's the whole point of Pirate Broadcast is I've always been fascinated. One of the jobs, I've been a firefighter, I've been a farmer, and now I'm a pirate. So the range is broad. I am me. So I'm going to be me. And there was a job that I enjoyed back when I, early 20s and, trying to figure life out. And I was a musician. I always played music. Yes. And I was, I was a ski bum, and I always worked on the side. I always had a job. And so one of my jobs I got was office supplies. And I would deliver this office supplies to companies that would have a name like ABC Corporation. It's just this label on a building. And I was always fascinated by what people actually did in these buildings. And you'd go in there, hey, we manufacture widgets for this industry, or we do, something, whatever it was. I was always fascinated by what industries existed that actually brought commerce to the world. It's like these businesses exist and to survive or thrive and help an industry. And it's kind of the same way with this. Is I love bringing people like yourself on to kind of understand a little. It's like having a conversation because you're a friend, and the other side is I want to learn more about other industries and other things so I can, help other people. It's like, okay, now I know, okay, there's an introduction and I need to introduce somebody to Steve. So, then you can connect the dots a little better. And I don't know what trait that falls under. However, that's really, a connector or, relationships or whatever it happens to be.
There's a whole set of relational strengths, and connectedness is one of them, which is just a variation of working with people. And yeah, listening to you and having connectedness, I say, yeah, you sound like you could have that in your top 5 if you were to take the test and look and see, or maybe even in your top 10.
I have the book. I need to sit down and read the book and go through it. So.
Or you can come to me and I can coach you through it.
There you go.
And you don't have to read the book. You can come, and as a coach, I can walk you through the process.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I want to shift gears. Because I know we're, time on these programs go quickly.
Okay.
And I'm not going to get out of here today without highlighting the fact that I love your Saturday stories.
Oh, thank you.
And I want to dig down and find out what got you started in that process and how it evolved and what is the motivator for you to sit down and write these stories and what's the source of inspiration? Because that's a side of Steve that a lot of people I don't think can appreciate, because the creative side is in all of us. I believe everybody has a creative side.
Yes.
And you either need permission or you need to bring it out in some way, shape, or form. So tell us about the creative side of Steve.
Well, the creative side of Steve has been there since I was a little boy. Now, I did more hand craft type things, through junior high school kind of than I did actual writing, because truth be known, I was a terrible writer. I mean, in terms of grammar, spelling, word usage, I think I got a C- in my college English class. So I tell people if I can become a good writer, anybody can become a good writer. And that's just through a career of having people around me that were good writers.
Yeah.
Helping me see where I needed to grow and being open to that. That's where my learner skill came in to say, okay, I made this mistake. I'll lock that in and try and not make it again. So I developed the writing skills from that, but the creative spirit may tie a little bit to connectedness from the standpoint of me looking at things differently.
Mm-hmm.
And as I look at things differently, I'm inspired to say, hey, you see that rock over there with that flower in it?
Yeah. That was a great story, by the way.
We can make a story out of that.
Yes.
And then I sit down, and because they're short stories, I've got 1,300 characters. That is always a challenge with LinkedIn.
Unless you publish.
Yeah, unless I publish. So I have, kind of a model that I've developed that helps me to create those stories going forward. But generally, I'm pleased when people tell me, I started reading this and I thought you were going in this direction, and you totally ended up in another place altogether.
Yeah.
And the light bulbs start to spin, the thoughts start to spin as people reflect upon things from a different angle.
Well, and the beauty of it is that the story starts in one direction and goes much deeper. The meaning is always, you take it to a new, deeper level. And if for everyone that has an opportunity to reach out and broadcast or watch this broadcast today, either live, Leslie, Maureen, thank you so much for being here. I just love you guys. Lori, Rachel, all of the people that are joining us live, and if you're watching the replay of this, go connect with Steve. He's actually, let me put this up here, Steve, because I actually did this. So,
my FYI page, yes.
So Steve Sullivan is on FYI, and I want to bring up this page because I think it's fun. I think it's kind of fun. So let's look at this. So you can join Steve at fyi.to, stevesullivan.fyi.to. So shout out to Rodrigo Martinez.
Yes.
And go check out his stories. I'll post it in the links here. And then also he's on LinkedIn. So just go to LinkedIn and it's Steve-Sullivan IT. So
yes, and if people want to follow the hashtag Story Saturday, they can go out there and click follow, on that. I used to ask people if they wanted me to tag them, but I've gotten to the point where I'm tagging so many people, LinkedIn puts me in like tag jail, and for 24 hours I can't tag anybody.
I have slowed down on my tagging only because I wanted to observe how the pirate broadcast can organically grow.
Yes.
And it's been phenomenal actually. So I'm really blessed to be here and have people like yourself, Steve. I just really love the opportunity to have a conversation with interesting people doing interesting things. And with the UMAP, so you're coaching UMAP.
Mm-hmm.
You're writing your Saturday stories. Go follow the hashtag, follow Steve, connect with Steve. And then also you're probably adventuring into some other opportunities. Tell us anything else that you got going on.
Well,
but exciting because I know you have a family and you got things going on, and you got snow coming, so you probably shoveling the driveway. And
well, fortunately for me, or maybe not, my kids are all adults, so we're empty nesters now. So it gives me a little more time than people that have lots of little kids. Because I remember those days, and those were fun days, and I miss them. I've got grandkids now, so I can share in that, but being a family man has always been important to me.
Yeah.
A couple other things that I am doing is trying to develop content towards helping people tell their story. Because I believe that there's power in telling a story. It conveys information in a way that people grasp it.
Yeah.
And, one of the projects I'm working on is leadership through stories, potentially writing a book on that.
I just love stories, actually.
I got you.
You're so powerful.
Most companies do not use stories. Let's take their values. How did they come up with their values?
Yeah.
Well, it sat down on a meeting. They said, okay, these sound good, or our customers are going to like these. But if you were to ask the employees what the values are, they probably couldn't tell you.
Or the mission statement.
Yeah. But there is a story, or should be stories, behind each one of these.
Yeah.
And if companies were to learn how to develop and tell those stories, they would be able to more effectively communicate with their employees.
Yeah.
Another example. Every company has customer service, right?
Yeah. No. Every business believes they have customer service.
Okay, all right. I take that. But if you've been through those customer service training things, it's usually a set of steps. Make sure you greet the people. Make sure you smile at people. Make sure you ask them if they want water. I mean, there's all these steps. But what companies don't do is turn those steps into stories.
Yeah.
To show why the smile is so important, why each step contributes and changes or impacts their customers, hopefully in a positive way. And so if they were to train using stories, I think they would have more effective training.
Oh, absolutely. And there's so many opportunities for a a business to actually share why it's important. What's the benefit to the individual in the organization in doing this? Because, caring is something that we can all improve on, and when you have a core value that is attached to your own personal benefit, I think there's a stronger story there. And there's also the journey of, okay, if you care about this, these results will happen. And that story is often missed out on as we relate to a lot of organizations, I think. And you see it, you notice it, you just notice it. And it just.
Exactly. I mean, we're doing the same thing with the random act. I mean, we're capturing people's stories and what they did to help others. And what does that do? That helps them, inspire others, gives ideas to others, hopefully encourages more people to step out and be kind.
Yeah.
Because kindness is cool, right?
Well, that's my state. That's my story, and I'm going to stick to it.
Yes.
So. Hey, Steve, this has been phenomenal, and I really appreciate the opportunity to sit down with you and have a conversation about UMAP, transition, the fact that you're growing and you're a learner and you're expanding your horizons, and use it in such a positive way. I mean, helping other people is, for me, it's the most wonderful thing that can happen, so I applaud you for your transition and your expansion and everything that you're doing, and thank you so much. Get a hold of Steve, connect with him on LinkedIn, go check him out on fyi.tl. I'll put some links in the comments here today, and I just really share this out and ask questions and let me know if you have any specific questions you want to ask, and I'll connect the dots for you today. So thank you, Steve. As always, it's a pleasure. And you know what I'm going to say? Kindness is cool. Smiles are free.
Yeah.
And you enjoy the day.